G'day guys, Rukshan here. Thanks for joining me for the news vlog. I hope you're having an awesome day. There's many people around the country today who would be having an awesome day because of this particular news stories that I'm going to share with you right now. So you might have already seen this actually. But first up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the headline from the Courier Mail that got this news out there in the first place, I think. And this headline says, Supreme Court bombshell. Queensland's mandatory COVID vaccine orders unlawful. So I'm going to switch it up now and go to the ABC, a neutral source, a source that was a part of the coercive mandates that are in relation to this particular case, because they, the media, mainstream media in Australia was very much a part of this coercion around that time. Now, I can't get into too much detail, unfortunately, on these platforms like YouTube and Facebook, but I will read this article and then share some of my thoughts regarding what's transpired today. Mandating COVID-19 vaccines for some Queensland frontline workers found to be unlawful, judge rules. It's a very significant finding. A judge has ruled that mandating COVID-19 vaccines for some Queensland frontline workers was unlawful based on human rights grounds. Dozens of Queensland's police and Queensland Ambulance Service staff challenged their workplace mandate in the Supreme Court in 2022 after they refused to comply with the directives. Good on these folks, they stood their ground, right? The two groups were testing the legality of the directions on several grounds of the Judicial Review Act and the Human Rights Act. On Tuesday, the Justice Glenn Martin found the applicants had not established any ground under the JRA for unreasonableness. However, he did find the directives breached Section 58 of the Human Rights Act, which states that all public service employees must give proper consideration to human rights before making a decision, and that they must act and make decisions that are compatible with human rights. In a written decision, Justice Martin determined that the Commissioner of Police failed to comply with this section of the Act, despite being provided human rights compatibility assessments, and based on this declared that the QPS directions were unlawful. Justice Martin also found the Director General of the Department of Health was not able to prove he had the power to make the direction under an implied term of the QAS employment agreement. Due to this, the direction was found to be of no effect and had no force. Arguments were also made by the applicants about the breaches of Section 17 of the Human Rights Act, which says people should not be subject to medical treatment without full, free and informed consent. However, Justice Martin ruled that this human rights limit was reasonable when weighing all circumstances. So this is what, when this story is being discussed now, this is what people who supported these coercive mandates, the people like in the government, for instance, who are covering their backs now when these type of rulings come out, this is what they point to. They say that the actual mandates themselves, they passed the human rights test. It's the way that they were applied, because the Queensland person that was in charge of this, for instance, didn't take human rights considerations as per the requirements when making the directives. That was the act that was unlawful, not the mandates themselves. So that's how it's being, this nuance around this. Let me know what you think about this. I still think this is a major breakthrough case in terms of this appearance of at least of some justice for these particular employees with these directives that were used against them to coerce them, and they said no, to have been found unlawful in the manner that they were implied by their non-compliance with the Human Rights Act. I think that's a fairly big deal. Now the government, this is what they've said. Let's have a listen to this.
The point that I want Queenslanders to know is that His Honour did find that placing a limit on people's human rights around mandatory COVID vaccinations was not contrary to human rights, and in fact it was justified given we were in the middle of a pandemic.
Again, I truly believe that if this was ever legitimately tested in good faith, there would be so many issues with what she said just then. They won't even have an inquiry, a proper royal commission into the COVID-19 and the handling of it. So how can you even, even Victoria, for instance, we haven't even seen how they came to many of the decisions they came to, because all those documents have been hidden from us. So how could we even come to terms with whether these people did the correct thing or not? All right, these things are just all covered up, and it's good to see, at least in this instance, just a glimmer of hope of some progress in challenging and battling these issues. Let me know what your thoughts are. Of course, people are going to find different ways to interpret this story. I still think it is a win. It's a good win, and it actually sets up people's attention on this issue again for them to continue fighting for their rights. And I've seen people saying that these police officers and these healthcare workers should now be entitled to back pay and compensation for what they were put through. Now, we've seen some cases like that in New York, in the US and so on. I've seen a few cases where they were given back their back pay. So I think, yeah, in this instance, there is grounds for something of that manner. And on that same note, I guess this is another one that's related to COVID-19. I can't get into too much detail again on Facebook and YouTube, but there has been a small win in the Senate, in Parliament as well. And this time with Senator Babet, with his motion around excess deaths. And this motion is really around acknowledging the fact that there is an issue with excess deaths and also calling for the need for an inquiry. So that motion, to a lot of people's surprise, this hasn't been covered, of course, in the media, because they try to downplay these type of things as being more so, just the parliamentary stuff that no one really needs to know about. But this motion might end up being significant and really the first, even if it's just a symbolic step, in pushing forward with a inquiry into issues around excess deaths. Now, excess deaths in Australia have increased a lot, and I can't go into too much details about this because, obviously the platform that I'm on. Let me just read my tweet from this, and I'll give you an idea of what transpired in the federal Parliament Senate last night. Breaking: Senator Babet from the United Australia Party has successfully passed a motion in the federal Senate overnight addressing the alarming rise of excess deaths and the need to investigate the cause of this increase in Australia. The vote resulted in 31 senators supporting the motion and 30 senators opposing it. All the members of the Labor Party and the Greens present in the Senate chamber voted against the motion. Colour me shocked. Senators from the Coalition and the One Nation, along with Senator Babet and the UAP, voted in favour. Senator Babet has stated that this is the first motion of its kind to pass in the world. To his knowledge, relating to acknowledging the rise of excess deaths, the motion is considered by some as a preliminary step towards calling for a broader parliamentary investigation into the issue of excess deaths. So there you have it, a small win in this regard, and I think it's significant. I think we can't downplay it. This is a little bit of the motion itself, so you can have a look at that. I won't read into that. I'll just leave it on the screen for a little bit. I do think this is significant, and this is the first time we've actually seen members of the Liberal Party also come on board with voting for this type of motion. I do believe Senator Babet has tried to put this motion through in the past unsuccessfully, but this time, for whatever reason, members of the Liberal Party have sided with him as well as One Nation, and I believe Jackie Lambie Network as well, to push this through against, of course, all the members of the Labour Party, all the members of the Greens who are present in the Senate chamber voting against this. Especially the Greens. It's like so disappointing to see this. They've almost become big pharma shills, right? Why do they want to know what happened? Why do they want to know why these numbers have gone up so dramatically? Why do they want to know? What are they trying to hide? Who are they protecting is a real issue, right? We should want to know why there's so many more Australians dying every year as opposed to what the rates normally are, right? It's a dramatic increase. I don't know. I think that's another win, and it also comes on the same day. So it's quite a dramatic day in terms of COVID, I guess, justice in some regards. And it's an issue, of course, close to my heart and something I've been covering for a long time, and something, regardless of what the mainstream media says and what they cover, a lot of independent media like myself, a lot of these kind of alternative outlets, and a lot of these politicians who are independent or from the minor parties keep fighting for this issue. So I think it's a great thing for Australia. Next up, guys, I wanted to play this video. There apparently, now you can take this as Russian propaganda if you want. You can take this as, CIA propaganda. I don't know what kind of propaganda this is, but apparently there was a hit placed on Tucker Carlson while he was in Russia by the Ukrainian intelligence, and they hired some bloke in Russia, like I guess a spy, to carry this out and plant a bomb or whatever under his vehicle while he was at a hotel. Now, this guy's been apparently apprehended thanks to the work of the Russian intelligence, the FSB, and he's given a video confession. Now, make of what you will of this, but I'm going to play the confession. I don't really have any thoughts on this because, again, who knows with this propaganda that we get from all sides in this, but it is quite an interesting video, and maybe it goes to the fact that Tucker Carlson, regardless of what people say, has put a target on his back. He has put himself in danger, especially during that time before the interview happened. People weren't sure. You had the US Secretary of State talking about like how it's going to change the outcome of the war. That's kind of the breadth and the importance that they gave to this. So let's have a listen to this video.
Я Васильев Петр Алексеевич, 88 года рождения, уроженец Подольска. В ноябре 23 года был завербован сотрудником ГУР Украины через сеть интернет. Проходил обучение работе спецспека со спецсвязью, сбора подрыва взрывных устройств, а также работе с тайниками. 31 января куратор получил задание забрать с тайника взрывное устройство и использовать его для подрыва автомобиля.
Что вам обещали?
Здесь вознаграждение $4000.
Где должно было быть применено взрывное устройство?
На подземной парковке отеля «Фашизм» в Москве необходимо было забрать взрывное устройство из тайника и заложить его под автотранспорт.
Против кого планировалось применить взрывное устройство?
Ну, сообщили.
Сейчас вы знаете, кто был целью?
Да, американский журналист Carlson.
Что пошло не так?
На этапе подготовки был задержан, содеянным на Skype.
I mean, it's a very eerie video. Either he's telling the truth, either he's been forced to make this confession, either this is some sort of fake propaganda piece. Who the hell knows? But apparently Tucker Carlson's life was worth about $4,000. I'm not sure if it's rubles, but at least $4,000 is what this guy was willing to do this bombing. And he didn't know at the time apparently who the target was. He only found out later that it was Tucker Carlson when he was apprehended and caught. Let me know what you think about this. Have you seen this story? Has it been proven to be a psyop? Some people are saying it's a psyop. Who knows? Next up, guys, back to Australian news. Scott Morrison did a bit of a farewell. Just wanted to show you guys that. I'm not going to look into too much detail into Scott Morrison's farewell. Interesting end of a long political career for one of our prime ministers. And again, it's something that people aren't talking about. It just goes to show you the fall from grace that Scott Morrison has had, even amongst the conservatives in this country who don't really care whether he's in politics or not. And I believe he's now gone off to join some US, is it an arms company or something like this, involved in some sort of military industrial complex venture. So yeah, that's Scott Morrison has left Parliament. He gave his final speech today. Now, guys, there is hope in the Israel-Gaza conflict, according to President Biden. He is saying next week, potentially there will be a ceasefire, especially during the time of Ramadan. This has been negotiated, and they're very confident that this is close to actually becoming a reality. So let me read this from the BBC and give you guys a bit of what the story is. US President Joe Biden says he has hopes to have a ceasefire by next week, Monday, in the Israel-Gaza war. His comments come amid reports of some progress reached in ongoing negotiations involving Israel and Hamas representatives in Qatar. My national security advisor tells me that we're close. Israel launched a large-scale... Okay, they're giving the background. What else do they have here? A spokesman for the US Energy Department said earlier that the progress had been made in negotiations to release the Israeli hostages in the last several days, but that it remained unclear whether Hamas would accept the latest proposed deal. We've had progress with the conversation we've had between Egypt, Israel, and the United States and Qatar, said spokesman Matthew Miller. Now, we've seen these type of discussions before. We've seen these deals being put on the table. We've seen these offers being made. If you release the hostages, this will happen. But then we've also seen it not eventuate. But Biden seems very confident. It's being reported on very confidently, particularly around this, the ceasefire for Ramadan. Hopefully, I mean, considering what is going on there, the massive humanitarian crisis, and the fact that there's still hostages being held captive by Hamas, you would want to have some type of resolution where the death and the killing stops for all sides involved in this, and some type of lasting peace could be negotiated. Now, that's, of course, wishful thinking, looking at the history of all of this, but, you know, they're still trying. So let's see what happens with this. Now, staying on Israel-Palestine conflict, yesterday we spoke about a US Air Forceman who set himself on fire in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington. Now, there was a lot of speculation as to his motives, and there's been some investigative journalism, I guess, done in this regard, and some interesting aspects of his personal life, his ideological beliefs, his political beliefs have also come out, which might point more closer to the reasons he may have committed such an act, or the reason that he believes so strongly in the cause of Hamas, or what was happening in Palestine, however you want to portray it, because people are looking at this in a different way. Now, Hamas has allegedly, and the Quds News Network, which is Hamas affiliated, has come out and praised this hero for generations, a hero of Gaza, for doing this act. But Andy No has also found some interesting information on this. A far-left extremist queer revolutionary group in Ohio has claimed self-immolator Aaron Bushnell as one of their members. Mutual aid groups use the tactic of propaganda and recruitment through seemingly harmless volunteer work. Their aid always comes with strings and used to radicalize others. So they're saying Aaron Bushnell was a valued member of Serve the People Akron, a queer revolutionary organization in Ohio. Here he is helping feed the community. Rest in peace. So yes, this might go to be the understanding a little bit of why this individual set himself on fire. It is being, again, like I said, praised by organizations like Hamas and people that support that type of organization. Definitely, it is not an act that sane members of community should be carrying out as some sort of heroic deed. You're seeing, regardless of what he did that day, the war continues. There's still the sophisticated process of negotiations happening that might lead to a ceasefire. These type of acts should not be glorified, is what I'm trying to say. Let me know your thoughts on this, but I definitely don't agree with glorifying these type of acts, nor encouraging them, these type of martyrdom and things like this. Ridiculous, in my opinion. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this segment of the news vlog. If you're enjoying my work, you can, of course, subscribe to me and follow me on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button. You can also hit the notification bell, and you'll get updates as I put things up. You can also find me on X, Instagram, Facebook, Rumble, Odyssey, at The Real Rukshan, or at my website, www.realrukshan.com. All right, guys, see you next time.